I'm Matt Shook. I'm the lead writer for PlayMichigan.com, and I'm sitting here right in downtown Detroit, basically at the intersection of sports and sports betting. I'm literally sitting right across the street from Comerica Park and Ford Field, walking distance from Greektown Casino, from MGM Grand Casino, and from Motor City Casino as well. So, with sports betting starting soon online here in Michigan, it's an exciting time to be in downtown Detroit, and I'm excited to give you guys all the information. So, with fall approaching here in Michigan, the Detroit Lions have started, and the public hearing for online gambling is coming up on September 23rd for the Michigan Gaming Control Board. There's a launch expected around Thanksgiving for online gambling. Retail sports betting already started in March, and obviously the pandemic slowed all that down in the spring and the summer. So there's retail sports books opening up at tribal casinos across the state pretty much every week right now at this point. There'll be eventually 23 tribal casinos and the 3 commercial casinos that have sports books operating. So every week it's kind of a different angle of things that are changing here in Michigan. But of course, that Thanksgiving proposed or expected launch is the big news and the big thing that everyone's waiting for here in the Great Lakes State. My guess is that you're going to see the big ones first, FanDuel and DraftKings, just because they've been through these regulations before. One of the things that Michigan Gaming Control Board did is they adopted a lot of the policies from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Indiana, a lot of the states that have been through this process before. So my anticipation is that you're going to see those kind of operators that have been through these process, been through the licensing before. They're going to be the first ones, but then you're probably going to have about 15 online casino and online sports betting operators here in Michigan. They're probably going to all slowly come aboard. And by the time 2021 really gets rolling, I think you're going to have a robust and really a variety of choices to choose from here in Michigan. As far as possible speed bumps, I'd say the biggest one right now is that the FBI wasn't conducting background checks with some of the fingerprints that they were getting from the Michigan Gaming Control Board for people applying for a license. So that's probably the biggest possibility of something that could hold it up. Now, you also have the licensure process that's happening through the Michigan Gaming Control Board, and the legislature is going through their process of rulemaking, which is all set up for these kind of things to take place and be regulated throughout the state. So those are kind of the 3 main things that I'm keeping an eye on every day as possible speed bumps that could keep this thing possibly halted until late November, maybe even to December, and maybe even to 2021 as well. Yeah, so August was a pretty big month for the state of Michigan, and in particular, it's the city of Detroit, because those are where the numbers come from. The commercial casinos have to report those numbers every month. Those are the ones we get through the Michigan Gaming Control Board. So you had a busier month of August than you usually have because the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs were happening during that month. So there was more sports betting than maybe one would have anticipated, given that it's a pandemic, given that there are 15% capacity restrictions right now in the casinos. You had almost $16 million of handle in those 3 Detroit commercial casinos. And that's not taking into account the retail sports books that have opened up at tribal casinos across the state, which we'll get numbers from on a yearly basis based on their 2% payouts that they give to local communities from their compacts with the state of Michigan. So it was pretty big, but obviously with football starting now, you expect those numbers to go even more up. Yeah, I think for figuring out the online books and how things are going to look here in Michigan, you look to other states like New Jersey, where it's over 80% of the bets come in from the online markets. Illinois just put up similar huge numbers of the online compared to the retail sports books. So all indications are that Michigan's are going to be just like that, especially during a pandemic right now. And then you'll have the winter weather where no one wants to drive to a retail sports book if they don't have to. So there's no reason to believe that it'll be any different here in Michigan. And I would expect a huge majority of the bets to come in through online and for big numbers to come in here in Michigan. The relationship between the tribes and the state of Michigan, I think, is probably the most interesting thing about the state here, because you had these tribal casinos that were already operating and were in their sovereign nations that they have that weren't really dealing with the Michigan Gaming Control Board. But when you started online gambling and you put that law in place, now you have those operators who are going to be able to take bets from across the state. So the Michigan Gaming Control Board has to get involved in the rule making and be involved in that entire process. So that was one thing that was interesting about the law being put in place. Now, when we get launched and how things go, will be really interesting for other tribes across the country to look at. And what did certain tribes in Michigan do right? What did maybe certain tribes in Michigan do wrong? And what lessons can be learned from that? So not only the numbers that are coming in, but how the tribes feel about how things went down, not only legislatively, but also in practice with sports betting and online casinos happening, is probably going to be the biggest lessons that people take across the country from what's happening here in Michigan. So sometime this fall, that documentary will come out, and I had the pleasure of speaking with the documentary crew. And I think that the biggest point of emphasis that I wanted to drive home is the variety of topics that we're dealing with here in Michigan. This is a robust state for sports in general. You got two major college programs in Michigan and Michigan State that everyone cares about here in Michigan. You got four major sports teams, all in walking distance of my apartment here in downtown Detroit, in all the four major sports. You got a golf tournament here in the PGA. You've got Olympic athletes that are here. Everything is kind of covered here in the state of Michigan. And the same thing goes for the gambling industry. You got tribal casinos. You have big commercial casinos owned by the big corporate gambling entities across the country, across the globe. So, and you have a pretty good tax rate, so you'll have a pretty good environment for gambling in general. And you have all the variables that you could possibly want for different simulations, for different things you could possibly learn about the country and about gambling in general. So that's what's kind of interesting about the state of Michigan. I think that's what's going to be driven home in that documentary.